So it was more than just a blanket. So you couldn't take it, because what you were then beginning to affect was I was taking someone's being, was taking their worth if I were to take their cloak. So you couldn't do that. Ultimately, what you would be taking is their dignity. And again, the Hebrew people, very concerned about a person's self-respect and being respected in the community. So the law was, don't take, you can take the tunic, but you can't take the cloak. Jesus said, I'm telling you, even if they want to take your cloak, they should get it. So this is very contradictory to what the law was, which was if that guy's in need and you've got somebody in need, you need to give it, even to the point of giving him your very identity. That's huge. That's huge. Why? Because if Josh comes up to me and says, Tom, I need your house, what am I supposed to do? I'm going to put him in the garage. That's what I'm going to do. Think about that. You know, it's easy to think that God may ask me. Last week we heard the boys tell the story about the sandals. You know, sandals, okay. A belt, okay. A watch, okay. A refrigerator? I don't know. That's worth a lot of money. Television. We got a TV sitting in my house. It doesn't even turn on. It's not even plugged in. My wife says, what are we going to do with the TV? And my first thought was, well, we need to give it to somebody. But that's what we ought to do. People that need a TV. I got more TVs than I need. I got more TVs than I got people. That's not even right. You know? Got some mystery person in the other, it'd be Josh. Josh would be in the other room watching the TV. See, that's what would happen. So what do we do? What do we do when God asks us to give up what we call our identity? Do you remember the story of Joseph? The Donny Osmond story? The coat of many color, technicolor, whatever. I was at the Detroit airport and Donny Osmond was in line in front of me. Had on this little silk jacket. Joseph in the technicolor coat of, what was it called? Something like that. Something like that. And I'm sitting there looking at it and I'm thinking, dude, you're short. That was what I was thinking. I wasn't impressed by the jacket. The guy's about this big. Okay? But he did a musical about Joseph, which is an Old Testament story. Okay? You guys all familiar with the story? Okay, maybe not. Let's go ahead and look at the details. Genesis chapter 37. Joseph is 17. He's a teenager. You know what that means? He's typical teenager. He's just a kid. He's got a bunch of brothers. And he's out in the field with his brothers. And they're obviously clowning around. Because he goes home and it says he brought a bad report about them. So he goes home to Jacob, whose name was Israel. Israel and Jacob, same guy. I'm sorry, it's the other way around. Okay, so he goes to him and he says, hey Dad, these guys, they're not watching the sheep. They're busy texting their friends. They're not paying attention. And so he tattles on them. And they didn't like it because they got in trouble. So what did they do? They decided they were going to cause problems for him. Now Jacob, Israel, had given to Joseph a coat and he decorated it differently. It says it was richly ornamented. Had different trim. It had little, had all the little medals on it. It was cool. Why? It says because he loved him more than all his other sons. Okay? So this guy's the vanilla one. This guy's the strawberry one. This guy's the chocolate one. And he's Neapolitan. All right? He's all of them. That's kind of the idea. That Joseph's coat singled him out as being the favorite. That's how they knew that he loved him more. Okay? So then this is what they said they did. They got jealous of him, so they decided to go beat up their little brother. Okay? And the oldest brother, whose name is Reuben, his job in the Hebrew world was to protect all the brothers, including the youngest one. And Reuben says, wait, we can't just kill him, because then I'll be in trouble. So what we're going to do is we're going to throw him in this hole over here. So they threw him down in a well. We've all heard the story of, Joseph down in the well. And then they come back to the well because they get an idea. Instead of just leaving him in there, here come the traveling circus show. We'll just sell him to these vagabonds here and we'll sell him as a slave. So Reuben, they all come back, they look down into the well. Hey, listen, we're going to get you out of the well. Joseph is probably thinking, great, you're here to save me. Well, not exactly. Now we're going to sell you to these guys over here. So now Joseph is part of the circus. Okay? But Reuben has to go home and explain to Dad, where's Joseph? So they come up with this plan. They take his robe and they spread blood from an animal on it. Okay? And they walk in and they show the robe to Israel and they say, he says, where's my son? And they said, well, you need to see this. And he looked what he says. He recognized the robe and he said, it's my son's robe. Joseph has surely been torn to pieces. And he mourned for his son for many days. What was the significance of the robe? It's this, is that no Hebrew person would ever be seen without their robe. It wouldn't have happened. And so Jacob knew, Israel knew, that if his son's robe was empty, his son was dead. Because if his son was alive, he'd be wearing that robe with pride. Okay? It's the same for you and I. Is that there are things that you and I carry around that seem to be part of our identity. And if boy, why would that car be left there? That doesn't seem right. Tom wouldn't leave his car there. Something must have happened to Tom. Do you see the connection? But it's not that he noticed that the robe wasn't on Joseph. Okay? Because the robe was Joseph's ticket. I'm the man. I'm Israel's boy. And I'm his favorite at all of you. Okay? So it's the robe that carried the significance. And for you and I, the things that we carry identify us too. It made Joseph different than all the other kids. Not just that he was the youngest, he was the most favored. Now the interesting thing is, when you read the story of the lineage of Jesus, okay, Joseph is in the lineage of Jesus. It says, he did this, and begat this, and that, and this, and that, and then it says in Joseph. It should have read Reuben. It should have been listed as the oldest son. But instead, it was the one whose heart was right, that God had a plan for him. So Joseph's name is listed. That's significant. Especially for those of us that are oldest brothers. Think that through. Reuben's name would have been listed. And then we wouldn't have named that sandwich after him. We'd have named it to Joseph. But what does your robe say about you? What does your robe say about you? What you're walking around with today, what does it say about you? Because we all have a robe. 3rd, 4th grade, everybody got a label. This one's smart, this one's cute, this one's stupid, this one's athletic, this one doesn't even know what library is, blah, 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 blah. We all got a label. And it's the same label. And those of us that are old and have been to a class reunion, when you walk up to people, there's some people, you can't remember their name, but you can still remember their label. Am I telling the truth? Yes. Okay? Because it's hard to get away from the label. So what does your robe say about you today? When people look at you, and they watch the way you live, and they watch the way that you interact with people, what does it say? In Colossians 3, the words are, clothe yourself with. And then it describes these attributes. If this was the color of our coat, if our robe that we put on every day started with compassion in white, and kindness in red, and forgiveness in green, and patience in blue, and gentleness and so forth, if those were the color patches of our coat, that's what our coat's supposed to be made up of. Not of yellow, red, and white, and blue. It's supposed to be made up of these characteristics. Clothe yourself with. And it lists these things. And then it says, over all of these, put on love. The first thing people should see when they see you is love. Now you take the connection between the robe and the description of clothe yourself, and you can see how the writers are trying to say, this is your identity. This is who you really are. This is what people should see when they first encounter you. But unfortunately, Christians are known more for what we're against than for how we love. We're known for what we're against. Go to anybody in the culture, say, describe a Christian for me. And they'll say, well, they don't vote for this, they don't like this, they don't like these people, they don't do this, they don't, no. As opposed to, oh my goodness, they just love people. It's amazing. But when you read in Acts chapter 2, the people are out there wandering around. There's chaos in the community. You have factions of people, gangs of people who hate each other. The Holy Spirit comes and it says that what the church was added to daily because people saw their love for one another. People that just 2 days before would slit each other's throats are now coming together in worship and in unity because they decided to clothe themselves with something different. They decided to take on a new identity. They decided to allow God to dress them differently, so to speak. And you and I as Christian people living here on Dean Road, when these neighbors right here, when they wake up, they should think of us in terms of that church really loves people. They care about people. They help people. Not, they have cool services, they have a preschool, and they mow the grass, and they need to do something about the sprinklers in the pond, but they need to think about how we love people.